Welcome to the summit. Life is love, love is life. And I can now introduce you to Thomas Moore. Welcome, Thomas.
Thank you, Susan.
And you're a psychotherapist and you've written many, many books, like 25 plus, and I've read some of them. I have here Dark Night of the Soul, which is a wonderful book. And you also have some books, the most recent one, Soul Therapy.
Yes.
And you also have Ageless Soul and
Yeah, here's
religious.
my most recent soul therapy, right?
Yes.
Just out.
Yeah.
And
And
a
then the
couple of
Ageless Soul.
couple of years couple of years ago, I wrote this book on aging called Ageless Soul.
And the religion of one's own.
Yes, that was a while ago. Yeah, but it's a book I keep returning to myself, A Religion of One's Own, right?
Yeah. And they're all beautiful books that I've read, and you have many more. I can't read all of your books, but right now at least. But the ones I've read, I can really tell you're about the soul, your bestseller, the soul, care of the soul, right? And it's all about the soul of us, who we are, but it's also about spirit. It's about all of you, you could say, and that is also life. We are part of life, and it's all love manifesting as life, and we can put all kind of words to it. But um, you your background, you've studied a lot of Jung. You're into depth psychology, and you really go into depth with everything, and it shows in your books as well. So I really appreciate that. And you have a PhD in religious studies, and you also studied a lot of music. So it's very broad, and philosophy you're into. You also art, methodology. There's so many. You're into everything. So you do a lot of research before you write your books, which is beautiful. And for this summit, I would like to talk about the life, being alive. What is that, and what is life? What is this soul depth we have? Can you speak about that?
Yes, I use this word soul because it's been used for about 3,000 years to describe how incredibly vast and deep we are as people. We're very, very big and very deep. We can never know ourselves. There's so much to us. And I think it's pretty clear to most people that your own identity overlaps with your parents and maybe your grandparents. And so and this is what Jung often said too, that our ancestors are really part of us. They're really in us. And so that makes us bigger too, because we have all of this life from ages flowing through us. And that's a very old teaching that we are part of the world soul and not separate beings so much. And so that's why soul gives us so much vitality.
Yeah, and soul is invisible, but it's also this body mind visible. It's like the core of it.
Yes, it's the tradition says that the body is not separate from the soul. We tend to think of it that way, that body and soul are separate, but they're really, the tradition is that they're not separate. When you look at the body, you're seeing the soul.
Yeah.
So it's 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 a way of looking at life that is not so modern. The modern way is to see everything separate and rather shallow. And the ancient way is to see ourselves as part of the whole.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's part of the whole, and it's one with the whole too that way. If it's
Yeah.
all interconnected, it's all one.
Yes. So it's a mysterious thing, but I don't like to make it too abstract. You know, in fact, what I try to do in all my work is to make these things concrete. I read those old sources that are very theoretical and a little odd, and I try to make it very real for people today. So when I talk about soul, I'm saying something that you can sense within yourself, that there are certain things that affect you so deeply that they get right to your essence.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like we can feel that essence somehow, like the feelings we have, our senses is all that essence.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And I feel myself that I think one of the big ideas myself personally is that it's the soul that gives us our life. So we are not really creating our life. We're not making, you know, it seems like we make a lot of choices and our life goes that way. But in fact, I think a lot of times life gives us these invitations to move ahead. And that's how I feel it. Like when I look at my own life, I would never have put this thing together, you know, the way it turned out for me, ever. I never would have conceived it. I didn't plan it. It was accidents or things that I just felt moved to do without knowing what I was doing. But when I come back, I'm 80 now, and I look back on my life, and I think, wow, it all fits. You know, I can see how one thing led to another, but at the time, I had no idea. Now that's what I mean by being part of life. It's like you let life live itself out through you rather than being so much in control.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that open heart, or that
Yes,
wonder to the world, and just not being into the mind of, the mind has a tendency to always analyze and dogmatize, but it's more like
yeah.
that openness.
I never use the word mind. You know, I never use it. I know that's the modern way of talking about our experience, but I never use the word mind because it seems to me we're in a flow of life all the time. And what it takes is more, as you're saying, a heart. You have to be connected through your heart. Things you love. You do what you love and you find your way to a good life. But if your heart is shut down, then it's very difficult to move ahead because then all you've got is your mind, which is really it's not very useful. It's not adequate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more like you want to be directed from your heart, and the mind can follow along, kind of. Or, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so with Jung, depth psychology, it's a lot about dreams. There's you really take a deep look at yourself, you could say, and in that, the unconscious becomes conscious. And in soul therapy, that's part of, like, you can share that with other people. You can make whatever is unconscious in you, your wounded self, can become conscious, and it can be shared with other people, and something happens in that sharing.
Well, this is my book on therapy. Really, you're talking about here, this newest book of mine. And I think I start with the idea that it's so interesting that human beings can talk to each other in serious ways, in ways that about important matters. And one person will feel much better. I mean, it's like it does comfort and help clarify what's going on. I mean, it's something to think about. I know we don't think this way usually, but two people come together and there's a potency there. There's a power where one person can actually really help another person find their way through a deep conversation. So I think sometimes we do this professionally, but most of the time it's in ordinary life. So you talk to your friend or someone in your family. And when you do that and you take that role on, I would say you're really doing therapy in that broad sense, not professionally, but you're doing it in the deeper sense of the word.
Yeah, yeah. It's you could say just being present with someone and being a listener, available.
Yes. Yes, you listen closely. You talk. How you listen and how you talk are important. And I think a lot of people feel inadequate. They're worried about talking to someone because they think you need a professional. We have made the profession so strong that people get worried. Ordinary people are afraid they don't know how to talk. But I think with just a few suggestions, which is what I tried to do with my book on therapy, with just a few suggestions of things to, dangers to avoid, um, or how to talk and how to listen, I think anyone can really help somebody else, just by offering themselves, by being present to them and listening closely and not saying too much. You don't give advice. That's what we tend to do automatically. But if you hold back on the advice giving and and you listen and you talk you talk a lot less than the person you're talking to. But you listen and let them know that they've been heard, and maybe you pick up an insight or two along the way, and that's worth a lot. I think getting insights is really a wonderful thing, but they don't come very often. So one or two in an hour of talking to somebody is pretty good.
Yeah, and often less is more, right? Like,
Yes, less is more, exactly.
yeah, yeah. And it does sound like also when you sit with someone and you're really available for that person, it's like your own personality and character is still there, but it's more, it's not, you're not full to the brim of yourself, but you're more emptied out for the other person, and something happens in that. Or
That's a very good way to put it. I like that very much, that you are present to some extent as yourself. You have to be, and that's important. But you don't make yourself too big, because you're there to really help the other person talk and maybe hear himself or herself say what they're thinking, and they haven't heard themselves before. That itself can be useful.
yeah, yeah, because I can see for the other person they can kind of relax, right? Yeah, yeah. And then in your book, A Religion of One's Own, it's also a lot about listening to yourself, and also be open to religions, and you can learn from philosophy as well and from other people, and but it's a lot about your inner guidance, and following your heart, your
Yes,
bliss.
yes, I think inner guidance is a very important thing. You have to pay attention not to yourself so much as, we have a kind of guidance within us. It's like conscience can be a guidance telling you you really shouldn't do this. We know what that's like when a voice of conscience comes in, or a muse. An artist might be inspired and they kind of feel the presence of inspiration. But I think we also have other voices, and this is in the tradition and the traditions too, where you can listen to yourself in a way, listen to those things in you. It's really not listening to yourself so much as to the deeper soul, really, the deeper part of yourself. And you find your way that way. You try to find a deep, deep kind of intuition, and you follow that. You also, of course, use your head, as we say, so that you don't do things that are crazy. You try to really have some order in your life. But the real thrust of life comes from that deeper place where you're listening to those other voices.
Yeah, yeah. And I know you were a monk for many years.
I was, yeah, well, decades and decades ago, yes.
Yeah. And but there you were in a lot of silence, I
I
assume.
was.
Yeah.
Quiet. It was a quiet place. So there was a lot of silence, but also ordinary life was quite quiet. Not always. We did have lots of loud fun occasionally, you know, but generally the life was a lot quieter than we have in our normal lives.
Yeah. But even in our normal lives, it's up to you if you want to be quiet, you could say.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And also just in life happening, it seems like that's life is our guide. It's whatever comes on our path of life is what uh, we can take in and work with and evolve from that or learn from that.
Yes, yes. Yes, I think that's interesting. You know, if we start by saying that we have to listen to deeply to ourselves to know what to do next, I think that's true. But to do that, you need some quiet. You can't be busy and loud all the time, and hear those things, that guidance. So it does help, and I don't think it has to be extreme, but um, you know, going for walks or working in the garden or finding a place you like to just sit and, you know, by the water or maybe a building somewhere that you like or an art museum. There's so many places to go that are quite naturally quiet. And that quieting of yourself allows yourself then to be in touch with that deeper self.
Yeah. Yeah, because oftentimes when we're really busy in life, it's like uh, we get caught up in the mind stream and the busyness and we completely, yeah, maybe we react in ways we don't want to react, maybe, or also we get caught up in other people's stories, or we lose ourselves somehow, right?
Yes, yes. I think today in the modern world is particularly difficult because we have so much media coming at us all the time. And lots of loud sounds, you know, a lot of loud sounds, whether it's a busy city street, which is can be very loud, or um, uh, media, as I say, music playing all the time, or televisions are on in people's houses still. And I work in hospitals, and one of the big things that is difficult, it's even difficult in the hospital to find a quiet spot sometimes. There's so much activity and televisions in every room to try to, I don't know what, to quiet everyone in some way, but they don't quiet your mind. So it's very hard in many situations today to find that quiet that we need.
Yeah, yeah. And it also seems like there's a lot of connection between people um, underneath the noise that we don't notice when it's too noisy all the time. There's like so much love in the air, you could say. But we miss it by just being so busy, or yeah.
Yes, that's right.
And
There's a lot, that's right. As soon as you quiet down, things happen.
yeah. And in your book Ageless Soul, it's the whole lifespan and how we are aging in life. That is just a fact, and eventually we
Yeah.
die. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yes, we're aging from the day one. So that book is for everyone, no matter what age, because we are all aging. I've been focused on a number of people I know who are turning 30, and they feel that they're really aging. You know, to me, of course, that seems very young, but to them, it's really a turning point. And so it doesn't make any difference what age you are. Still, you're going through changes and stages, phases of life. Personally, I don't go along too much with the idea that we have two parts of life, you know, two halves. Seems to me we have many phases where we go And we're more like a clock with all of these phases, all these sections, phases we go through. And each one is important. I think if we don't move, keep living forward, living into life, then if we miss some of those stages, I think it makes it more difficult as we get older. So I think my basic thought is that we need to take a chance when life offers us a new opportunity, to take a chance and move ahead. And not in a crazy way, but maybe thoughtfully, but still move ahead instead of back away out of fear or out of wanting to be comfortable what you know and where you are. I think it's really important to keep moving ahead and moving into the future instead of holding back.
Yeah. Yeah, like meeting the moment as it happens, right? Because it's not grasping on to the past too much, or and not even looking forward too much either. It's more like being in the present moment, but and meeting life as it happens. And
Yes, as it happens, but still, I think there's something about having the courage, maybe, and the vision to move ahead I think that's important. So when those opportunities come along, you know them. I can get a new job. I can try a new relationship. I can go to a new place. And the thought is coming and opportunities may be in front of you. And I think a lot of times we just say no because we don't want to take a chance, or we just feel stuck where we are and not having the energy to move. I think it's awfully good to be able to live into life. So it is a kind of forward move. It's not just staying in one place.
yeah, it's like an openness to the unknown in a way.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and then and that's because there's so many things we don't have control over. Obviously, the whole pandemic, and there's just so much going on all the time in the world, and it seems like little me can do nothing. Yet it's we all interconnected. It's all life, and then something happens also in your courage of meeting life and being fully intimate with it, and
Yes.
it at a bigger scale.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like we don't have to feel completely powerless, right?
No. That's very important. It's important to have your power and to be strong. To be strong, not weak. To be strong and living your life strong. And if other people tell you, you know, that you're not doing the right thing, you have to be strong to stand up to criticism too, very often. So I think it's in many ways, it's important to have that strength to move ahead.
Yeah. And that strength is also, it's in you. You're made of it. You just have to kind of know that for yourself, or relax into that. Because we're told so many different things, it's easy to also get confused and believe everybody else but ourselves.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. So I even suggest sometimes that people work out and develop their bodies so that they are that can move into their psyche to be strong. You know, if you're working with your body to be stronger and tougher and more elastic and all of that, then you might have those same qualities of character as you do that. And so whatever it takes to be forceful as you move into life, I think it's important. And sometimes, you know, the way we're talking, people are rather quiet and passive. We talk all about quiet, people get passive and they don't have their strength. And I think that's terribly important to be in touch with that and to do everything with some bold vision.
Mm. Yeah, because we're not just the stillness, we are also the movement. We are the body too.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It's not just, in most things, their opposites come together. So being still and quiet on one side and being strong and expressing yourself on the other. We need both. And we have to find some way, not a balance of those things, but a time now maybe to be strong and another time to be quiet so that the two are represented. And that's true of almost every aspect of life, to get the opposites both represented somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you're very fond of Tao Te Ching and other like Zen, Buddhism, and it's also a lot about the opposites. They complement one another.
They do, yes. Yes. Jung was very big about that. He wrote one book called Mysterium Conjunctionis, which means the mystery of the conjunction, the mystery of the coming together of opposites. And I think that's very important that's one way you notice where you need to go, that if you find yourself split and you feel these opposites strongly, that's an indication you need to bring them together. So if you feel weak most of the time, somehow you've got to be in touch also with strength. They both have their place.
Yeah. And to me, it also sounds like welcoming all of life in all it because the spectrum of life, it's everything, right?
Yes, that's right.
It's sorrow, it's joy.
Well, when you introduced me today, you talked about that I have many interests like music and the arts and psychology and philosophy. Well, it's funny. When you were saying that, I thought that's kind of odd because I don't make those divisions myself too much. It seems to me we have these artificial divisions in our life. Like you're an artist or you're a scientist. It's not very good. You should be able to be both.
Yeah.
And a lot of scientists are musicians that, and some of them paint. And so it's really important, I think, not to have those divisions. We create our schools with all these divisions. But in fact, wouldn't it be great just to learn? Just to learn instead of saying, okay, I'm going to study history of Renaissance art. That's a wonderful topic to study, but why not do it if you're a theologian, rather than an art historian? So I feel I definitely feel that I'm a theologian, not connected to any particular religion at all, but a theologian, someone who wants to talk about those things that theology does. And I'm a musician, and that puts me in the realm of the arts. And I study depth psychology, which is also different, but I can see how they all relate. So that's another way to see the whole of life, is not to let yourself be limited by all these categories that people want to put you in. Just don't accept them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that we all whole in ourselves, right? We are whole, but often because we always identify with, and um, we divide everything into boxes, and then
Yeah.
then we feel so split and separate. But in reality, we are just this wholeness.
Yes. I don't use the word wholeness much myself about it. What I like to think of it as how much you can embrace. Not where you become whole. We're always in parts, seems to me, but to be able to embrace all of those different things, to hold them, rather than wholeness, I probably would say wholeness, to be able to hold everything, and to be big in your imagination. So like I was saying, if you don't let people identify you in one of those boxes, and if you don't, then you can just keep moving from one to the other.
Mhm.
It's what Jung called that mercurial, or the Greeks would refer to Hermes. that it's Mercury that allows us to be kind of very flexible and keep moving all the time, so no one can pin us down. There's something kind of tricky and shadowy about Hermes and Mercury. So that's what you have to do, I think, is you operate in such a way that you're slippery, so nobody can really pin you down to one particular thing, which is too limiting.
Yeah, and that's also with oneself. Why hold myself down? Why not just be flexible, adapt, just be more fluid, you could say.
Fluid is a good word for it. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much, Thomas. It was beautiful. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Well, thank you, Susan. It's wonderful to be able to talk about these things. You know, they aren't discussed too much in our contemporary society.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And yeah, what about a website? Do you have a website so people can?
I do. I have a website, thomasmooresoul.com. It's in the process of being updated right now. thomasmooresoul.com. And I have a new book just out, Soul Therapy. And I teach a course all year long. I teach a course of, actually it's a series of courses in archetypal psychology and the mythological and alchemical psychology. It's all quite interesting and wonderful. And that's how I spend my time these days.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much for offering that and for all your beautiful books. And for your, I met you in Seattle when you've been here a couple of times, and it's wonderful to be with you in live, but it's also wonderful to be with you online since it can't be otherwise right now.
Yes, yes, yes. We both are fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciated the conversation because you understand what this is about. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I try. Yeah, thank you.